Tensions between the U.S. and China are set to dominate a defense summit beginning on Friday in Singapore. The annual Shangri-La Defense Dialogue focuses on security issues in Asia. It will run until Sunday. More than 600 officials from almost 50 countries will attend the meeting. China has declined to meet with the U.S. on the sidelines of the summit and refuses to open lines of communication. Military tensions between the two countries have increased in recent months. Earlier this week, the U.S. released footage of a Chinese fighter jet conducting a dangerous maneuver close to a U.S. surveillance plane. For more on what to expect from the Shangri-La Dialogue, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Derek Grossman from the RAND Corporation.
What can we expect from the Shangri-La Dialogue?
Well, Shangri-La Dialogue is a really great forum. It's in its 20th year now, and I think it's an important forum because what's interesting about it is a track one discussion among all the different countries, but there's obviously a track two element to it because you have think tankers and academics and journalists there who can ask during the Q&A, who can ask and have asked in the past pretty hard-hitting questions that put the government officials on the spot. And sometimes you will get answers that are off script and that are pretty revealing in terms of how some of these countries are thinking about themselves and their environment and their interactions with their friends and their adversaries. So I would look to that as kind of the most intriguing part.
Why is it significant for militaries in Asia to communicate with each other?
So I think it's very significant that all of the countries in the Indo-Pacific communicate with each other, but of course, specifically the great powers, the U.S. and China. And it's unfortunate that at the Shangri-La Dialogue, we found out a few days ago that the Chinese side refuses to meet with the U.S. side. And so I think this is a real missed opportunity, but we also shouldn't kid ourselves. Communication is only one component of dealing with the rising risks throughout the Indo-Pacific of potential armed conflict between the U.S. and China. We also need to focus on improving our deterrence capabilities against China, specifically within the Taiwan Strait, to deter China from ever trying to attack Taiwan. That's what really matters.
China has rebuffed a U.S. request to meet on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue. Why does China keep declining these requests?
Well, so their official line on it is that we still have sanctions on the Chinese defense minister, and therefore, why would they meet with the U.S. side until the U.S. decides to undo the sanctions? I think there's more to the story. I think that's part of it. But I think if you kind of look at the broader context of U.S.-China relations, there's been enormous tensions in the last few years, and the most recent of which was the spy balloon incident that in February that flew over the continental United States, and ultimately the U.S. military shot it down. I think the Chinese were very unhappy with how that went. I also think that when you look at the Biden administration's last couple of years in terms of engaging in extreme competition against China, whether it's cutting China out of supply chains or bolstering Taiwan's defensive capabilities, the Quad, right? Australia, Japan, India, and the U.S., that ongoing dialogue, which clearly revolves around dealing with China, and there's many other things too.